Hey everyone, Channdak Biswas this side. Like Abhijit's mentioned, I'm a vice president with Everest Group. Spent last 6 years researching about technologies, AI, customer experience. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, I think it's better. So yeah, I've been focusing a lot on technologies. Agentic AI is one of those technologies that I deeply focus on as a part of my research. Uh, Manage a team of global analysts all across US, India, UK. We have in Japan, Argentina as well. So a global team of analysts cover the entire space, which I'm responsible for. So those of you who are not aware of us, we are a global research and advisory firm. We have been in this business from 1991, so has been covering the global business services technology space from a long time. Like I said, we have coverage all across the world, have covered almost more than 800 plus service providers, technology providers, etc. Have almost 1,000 analysts covering the entire global business services space. So we have deep research and advisory coverage all across the businesses and technologies. So that was a brief overview about us. Before I deep dive into the world of agentic AI, just with a show of hands, I'm sure every one of you have heard about AI agents, but how many of you have actually started working on it or are thinking about working on it in your organizations? All right, so we have a few. That makes the conversation more interesting because I have I'll first set the context for those who have not yet started working on it, but then I'll also move on to help you understand what are the things that that are coming as roadblocks for most of the organization. What are the opportunities where some of your peers are focusing on, and how do we see the market evolving? How do we feel the right steps that organizations have taken so far to move towards success. So I'll focus a bit on what's happening now, but then also move ahead and talk about what's going to happen next as I deep dive into the conversation. So just to set a context, if you see the whole realm of technologies in the past couple of decades, right? A lot of technologies have come in, impacted businesses, cloud, Gen AI, RPA, AI, ML, agentic is the next one. I mean, these are the waves that have come in and went on. Cloud being the first and the primary one. I mean, it democratized the way people could access computing power, be flexible, scalable, etc. Then came on RPA. I mean, it automated at large scales, which then made its way to AI, ML based models. But then Gen AI opened the doors for creative knowledge-based work, right? And the next wave is agentic AI. That's or AI agent. That's we are going to talk about today. But I think what makes agentic AI or AI agent more exciting and interesting is it's moving the it's actually driving the shift from AI being assistants to AI being the doers. And like Abhijit was mentioning, AI agents are going to be the largest workforce in 2030, and I totally agree with that fact because in the future our co-workers are going to be AI agents. So we need to learn to how to work with technology and not just human, because they're going to drive a lot of decision making in our organizations. So now that we have set the context for agentic AI, I just want to spend a few minutes to kind of talk about where we are right now, because a lot has been spoken about it. A lot of possibilities are there, a lot of potential is there. But I think the industry is not yet at true autonomy. Autonomous agents which are fully self-learning, self-acting, etc. That's on the horizon. That's going to come in the next 4 to 5 years for sure, but we are still not there yet. If you see on the left hand side of this chart, we started with the task-based agents. Think about simple customer service bots who are able to answer your questions, but not able to trigger workflows at the back end. So these are siloed technologies which are there to execute a single task. But then most of the organizations and most of the products that are there right now in the industry has moved on to workflow agents, in which multiple task agents are there. They can work together in tandem, can drive an entire workflow. So think about your data and analytics. So an agent who can fetch your customer data, analyze the sentiment, then trigger any human action which is needed for the company to take action on. So that end-to-end workflow is being driven by multiple agents. So that is where most of the industry is right now. But then, I mean, the next leap is coming towards context-aware agents and autonomous agents, in which the agents are learning from different workflows, are more dynamic, adjusting themselves, which the autonomous agents is taking to the next step, in which they're able to act, react, learn, govern, etc. So that takes it to the whole different level, which the industry is not there right now. As you can see from the orange marker at the top, we are in between workflow agents and context-aware agents in actual deployment. I mean, there are products which claim to be all autonomous, but in actual deployments, we are at the middle phase. But I won't be surprised to see a lot of context-aware agents and autonomous agents in next 3 to 5 years. That's the horizon that we are expecting. So as we have covered what are the kind of agents we are seeing, I wanted to leave you all with a framework that we use for our clients to help them assess and understand what kind of use cases that they need to think about. And currently this slide is theoretical, but in the next slide I'll also give a life to the framework and talk about different use cases that we are seeing. But if you see the slide, right, we kind of think that there are two different parameters which are important. One is adoption ease and the other one is potential. And these two parameters kind of act together to help understand which use cases are there and which use cases needs to be prioritized by an organization. One thing is for sure that Agentic AI and AI agents are not going to be adopted everywhere in a business. So the use cases needs to be picked up strategically, and then once the accelerate quadrant, which is easier to adopt, have more potential, are covered off, then AI agents will proliferate into other areas which are more complex to adopt, etc. So if you look at the potential over here, we kind of consider 3 broader parameters to understand what the potential of AI agents are. Opportunity size: the larger the volumes, the more costly it is to drive a certain process. If it can be automated through Agentic AI, every efficiency gain impacts your cost parameters directly. So opportunity size is very important. Process scope and complexity: if done right, a complex process which includes a lot of judgment, heavy intensity in terms of the requirement of different data sets, different decision making factors, parameters, etc. If done in a correct way, it's another area which improves the potential a lot. And finally, high growth process, which are growing every year for an organization, increases the cost day by day. That's if done in the right way, has a huge potential to get automated. Most of the organizations are currently struggling with data. That is where the expertise doesn't lie with them. Data is siloed, not in a usable manner, etc. So that's very important. The regulatory constraints: a lot of banks, healthcare organizations, insurers are struggling with local laws, IP laws, government restraints, etc. And it usually slows down the adoption speed. And finally, criticality, because accuracy is important. It cannot go wrong anywhere. There's not even 1% tolerance for AI agents to go wrong in most of the organizations. So everything needs to be perfect, and that's why criticality is very important in a lot of processes. So like I said, we kind of use this set of parameters to add to the use cases that are more relevant for different organizations. And not everything cuts for every organization. It totally depends on the maturity, appetite for investments, and areas which are more of priority for different organizations. So what I'll do is, in the next slide, is I'll give a life to the framework that I kind of used in the previous slide. This is based on our in general overview and understanding of the market. Obviously, we would be happy to curate and make you understand more about what your organization or which kind of use cases which will fit your organization in a better manner. But if you see on the accelerate quadrant, the use cases that I was talking about, right? Live agent assistance, collections, claims adjudication. These are the use cases which have direct, immediate impact. And these are relatively easier to adopt, have high potential, can be quantified by any organization in a relatively easier manner as compared to some of the other use cases. If you see on the evaluate quadrant, right, fraud detection, monitoring, population health management, huge potential, but difficult to adopt because of the data restraint. I mean, if you think about population health management, for example, it requires a lot of data gathering from different set of sources. So adoption becomes very difficult for those use cases. But once those are taken care of, has huge potential. If you see on the educate quadrant, this is the proving ground for most of the organization. I mean, if you think about account servicing, provider outreach, patient outreach, for example, or customer journey analytics, these are one of use cases, easier to adopt at smaller scale. These are the areas in which organization can experiment, test their hypothesis, make the course correct, etc. if required. But then it acts as the proving ground for them, like I said. But then there is weight quadrant, which is kind of use cases which are not that important for most organizations. I mean, it changes from company to company. But then loan servicing, payment integrity, we kind of put it in the weight quadrant. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this change if we talk about different companies, or maybe if I do it 12 months down the line. Yeah, so I'll take a pause. Any reactions, any questions on this slide, or maybe on the previous slides, or anything that you folks are doing in your company, or anything else that you're doing that you want to talk about? Happy to hear that out.
A lot of these use cases that you highlighted here, they seem to be having a preponderance of customer service type of a thing.
Yeah.
What about some of the use cases which are essentially around using reasoning agents to do things like credit reporting?
Yeah.
Doing things like credit memos, for example.
Yeah.
Assessment of whether you want to invest in a company or not. How about that? Where is the industry going with that?
Yeah.
We are doing some work there which is looking very promising.
Yeah, that's a great point actually. So obviously those are the use cases which are already covered to a lot of extent, because those are the use cases which are a lot of times internal to the organizations, and that is where the initial investments had happened in the last couple of years. A lot of use cases that I am talking about in this slide is more forward looking. Things which have done to a certain extent, but is yet to be done to a lot of extent. But yeah.
Sorry, we do a lot of this already, so it's not that forward looking in my sense.
Yeah.
From that perspective.
Yeah.
Because if you look at live agent assistance, collections, payment, identification, they've been there for a while. We've been doing that. Account servicing as well, we've been doing quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I think where I was trying to understand is that high complexity use cases which are sort of looking at, a large workforce is typically in with people with 4 to 5, 6 years of experience. They have some organization knowledge, they have some access to some organization policies, and they do stuff which is not covered by typical RPAs.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of value is.
Yeah.
What are those use cases that you're seeing where you can dramatically make a difference in the ROI? That's number one. Number two is that from a revenue perspective, like a lot of this is cost sales. Are you seeing a lot of trends in terms of how you make money, like you justify on the basis of how much you can affect the top line?
Yeah, I think I'll take your second question first. Right now, to the point that you made, that you're working on a lot of these things. That's what make you leaders, right? Not the entire industry is doing that. Industry is lagging on that. But to your second question first, I think right now the focus is on cost savings rather than revenue generation for most of the companies, because it's still unproven to a lot of extent. That's why people are focusing on how they can save their dollars versus generate more revenue, focus on more sales, etc. Right? To your first question, I think the end-to-end workflows which involves multiple agents together, the adoption level is still lower, which I showed in the first slide. Because things are still siloed for most of the companies. They don't have technologies which kind of support the interoperable AI which works on end-to-end workflows. So things are still limited, but we are seeing, say for example, quality assurance in the entire process, right? It's a huge organizational burden for most companies. And they kind of are trying to do it with AI. Collections I've spoken about in this slide. It's another process which is, takes a lot of human to work on. Sales is another example in which we are seeing sales agents coming up, but the adoption level is still lower on those sides within the industry for end customers, not the product offerings from service providers or technology vendors. All right, so I think this is where I pick up a lot of the things that you folks have shared. I have also shared about things that have been thought about, but technology is not talking to each other. And there are a lot of challenges. Positives are there, things are being done, but there is a lot of debt in the industry. a lot of challenges, and we call it PTSD, not the usual PTSD that we think about, but process debt, tech debt, skills and data debt. I think with the process debt, most of the companies right now are so siloed in nature, run processes which are pre-digital era, undocumented, not a lot of explainability is there unless someone is doing at the back end. That is where AI agents and Agentic AI is struggling a lot. That is where, I mean, technology is not the bottleneck, but the way the things are being done right now is. The next one is tech debt, exactly what you were saying. I mean, over the last decades, older tech is pushed at the bottom, and on the top of that, new layer of newer technologies are being put. And I mean, that makes it harder for an AI agent to talk to one knowledge system with the CRM, with the other working technologies, working solutions that are there. And I mean, agentic AI or AI agents thrives when things are interoperable, when technologies can talk to each other, because it needs to connect with different systems at the same time to give the final potential outputs. And that's most of the debt lies. Skill debt, another thing. I mean, if you take out the bigger, larger organization who have that engineering manpower or engineering skills in place, I mean, mid-size and smaller organizations struggle a lot with skills. They can buy the technology from outside their company, but they cannot buy that or they cannot develop that skill within their organization. And that's where a lot of third-party vendors, a lot of third-party providers come in and play a huge role. The final one is data debt. I also had spoken about it in the framework slide. I mean, data is the most critical factor for AI agents to thrive, and that is where companies don't have the data which is in a usable manner. They don't collect data from a lot of touch points. Their data are siloed, kept in locked environments, driven by a lot of regulatory factors, not governed to a great extent, and that is where the debt lies. That is where they need to figure out how they can leverage different data sets to make the AI agent successful. So PTSD is the challenge that industry is facing right now, and it's seldom the fact that technology becomes a bottleneck. It's mostly the operational parts, mostly how things are designed right now is what's challenging for most of the organizations. If I talk about how, I mean, I've covered a lot about the use cases and things that we see in the industry as industry analysts, working with different set of companies who are at different stages of maturity. We see the entire deployment in a build to buy spectrum, which is, I mean, very basic, but the most important factor is how an organization takes that agentic AI agent journey to the next step, right? I mean, identifying the use cases is one part of the game, but then actually doing it is the most important factor. And the spectrum starts from the build side. Larger organizations do it in a lot many cases, not always, but if they have the appetite to invest. I mean, these are pre-built components, tools, libraries, APIs, etc. And are built and integrated for a certain organization. The trade-off here is the total cost and time, because it takes time to build something and it's a huge investment for most of the companies. But I mean, it gives you an access to a high complexity use cases, and it's bespoke, customized for your organization. The second one is AI builder platforms. These are mostly like drag and drop platforms. Easier to build agents in, faster, more flexible. Companies who want to play with different use cases, it's a perfect thing to do. I mean, Kore.ai also has their AI agent builder. Similarly, a lot of companies offer that. So agent builder platform is something which is of huge demand right now. But then there are pre-built customizable agents, pre-built for different industries. For example, pre-built for banking, healthcare, retail industries, which are trained in use cases which are usually in those industries. Very easy to deploy out of the box in most cases. Limited customizations, organization who love to experiment, test their hypothesis, etc. I mean, these are the kind of These are the kind of things that they kind of go after. So I mean, there are different approaches that organizations are taking depending on their size, cost appetite, how quickly they want to go to the market, whether they're willing to invest a lot of time to build, or they want something quick, experiment and move on, and try out different things which they can buy from the market. So there are different approaches. It's not a one size fits all approach that's there right now in the industry. So this is my last slide for today. Thanks for hanging on with me for the last many slides that I've covered. But I think we see a lot of failures in the industry, but there are a lot of successes as well. And there are some basic things to learn from those successes, which I think the industry is missing to a lot of extent. The first step, I mean, it's a 3-step journey that we are seeing companies taking. First step, which kind of lays the groundwork for success, is to start small. Like I said, identifying the use cases which can accelerate you to success, which can provide you high value, have high potential. Setting up your cross-functional teams with not just engineering folks in place, but also business folks, folks who are well versed in change management, governance, etc., who can be the champions for yourself in the company. And finally, leading with business outcomes. It's not just about having a tech in place, it's also about how that tech impacts directly your revenue, cost, etc., which we were speaking about just now. But then developing the right ecosystem is also important. I was talking about it in the PTSD slide. That tech ecosystem that is in place becomes very important. Otherwise, AI agents are not going to successful for sure. Fixing the data quality issues, fine-tune models in a way that suits your organizations, etc., so that you kind of tap into different technologies to drive that successful implementation. And finally, once these things are done, building the trust within employee base is very important. Because I mean, there's a huge fear in the industry, a lot of conversations happening about AI agents, I mean, replacing human, or like I said, AI agents being one of your co-workers, etc. So having those conversations with your existing employee base, having those guardrails in place so that AI agents are working in a manner that you would expect, and finally learn from the failures, learn from the successes, and keep on replicating. So I mean, continuously improving, monitoring, and doing the right steps again and again is becoming very important for a lot of organizations. And I'm sure many of you are already doing that within your company, but I just wanted to lay out the basics which many companies are missing right now. All right, so this brings me to the end of the conversation today. Thank you so much for hanging on with me. I hope you liked the conversation. It was informative. All right, thank you so much, everyone.